Friday night, she hit me with her metal bracelet in the company's glass maintenance room, where cameras were conveniently offline. "Stop lying," my stepmother hissed, her nails smelling of bleach. At 3 a.m. the next morning, I stood behind the cypress trees and saw her, not with my father, but with the landscaper, captured by the doorbell camera I'd secretly installed. I don't need to argue. I just need to show the board what 3 a.m. looks like. My name is Rowan Calder. I am 29 years old. I am the lead risk analyst for Halbert and Finch Logistics, a title that sounds impressive until you are pinned against a vibrating server rack by the company's chief operating officer, who also happens to be your stepmother. The time is 10:36 p.m. The city of Briarport is a glittering, silent map of light 14 floors below, a world away. Up here, in Utility A3, the air is dead, chemical, and cold. This isn't an office. It's a 10 by 10 box of frosted glass and humming machinery, a room designed for mops and data streams. The lights from the empty corridor are distorted by the frosted panes, smeared into sickly, watercolor blurs. The smell is the real occupant, a sharp, eye-watering ammonia from the industrial cleaning supplies stacked on a chrome shelf. It scrapes the back of my throat. It is the scent of erasure, of scrubbing away evidence. My back is pressed flat against the server housing. The metal is cold, biting through the thin silk of my blouse. A low, 60-cycle hum vibrates straight into my spine, a mechanical pulse that seems to shake my teeth. Celeste Hale is close. Her proximity is an invasion. The sting on my cheekbone is sharp, electric, a sudden bloom of heat. It is already starting to swell. It wasn't her hand, not flat-palmed. It was the bracelet, her signature piece, a thick, modernist cuff of brushed aluminum she bought at the museum gala. Cold and modern and brutal. She had been gesturing, her hand slicing the air, and the metal edge of it had connected, a metallic scrape. It didn't draw blood, but it left a streak. I can feel the grit, the smear of her foundation, right below my eye. The pain is precise, a focused, burning line. "You fabricated phantom expenses." Her voice, it is the most terrifying thing about her. Not loud, never loud. It is a dry, sibilant whisper, a sound like sand pouring onto silk. It's the voice she uses to terminate 9-figure contracts, to dissect a department head in a budget review. "You thought," she continues, leaning in. Her breath is a cloud of sugar-free mint and the faint, unsettling smell of the bleach she uses on her fingernails. "You could smear me? Me?" I keep my breathing steady. Rule 1 of risk analysis. Do not mirror the threat's emotional state. I am Rowan Calder. I am an analyst. I do not react. I assess. "The 3 a.m. landscape retainer payments are anomalous," I say. My voice is too dry. I swallow, and the ammonia taste is thick. "The billing codes are invalid. The invoices are ghost copies." A sound escapes her, a sharp puff of air forced through her nose. It's a laugh, but hollowed out, left with only the contempt. "Night contracts? Rowan?" She says my name like it's something she scraped off the bottom of her heel. "Vital work. Things happen while you're asleep. This isn't your college data club. Grow up." She straightens the cuff of her silk blouse. The blouse is white, sterile, impeccable, not a wrinkle. It is her armor. She looks at me, and her eyes, hazel, cold, and intensely analytical, are not angry. She is annoyed. I am a problem to be solved, a piece of bad data to be scrubbed from the system. I had to push. It is my job. "The invoices, Celeste, they lack work order numbers. They are flat fees, approved by your personal assistant, all clearing between 3 o'clock and 3:18 a.m., twice a week, for 6 months. The GPS data from the approved vendors' trucks. They aren't at the estate at that time. They're across town." The calculation in her eyes is immediate. She is not processing the fraud. She is processing my access. How did I get the GPS logs? How did I cross-reference the timestamps? She is measuring the threat I pose. "You have been," she whispers. the words clicking softly, like stones. Very busy. She turns. Her movement is fluid, economical, a predator's grace. Her gaze sweeps the small room and lands on the target. The small black box on the steel shelf. The digital video recorder for the corridor service cameras. Its small green REC light blinks faithfully. Blink, blink, blink. Her hand, the one with the perfect pale beige nails, disappears behind the server rack. There is no fumbling. She knows exactly where the plug is. She yanks it. The green light vanishes. The quiet whir of the DVR's internal fans spins down into silence. The sudden absence of sound is louder than her whisper. "Maintenance," she says, not to me, but to the dead machine. She turns back, that thin, bloodless smile just touching the corners of her lips. The system's been buggy all week, lagging. It is aware. My eyes don't stay on her. They flick past her shoulder, to the laminated sign zip-tied to a water pipe. Notice, this area not under surveillance. Seek. 4B utility. A lie. This room is recorded. It's the failsafe. It's where the primary DVR is housed because it's a restricted area. She knows that. I know that. And she knows I know. The sign is for plausible deniability. The unplugged cord is the punctuation mark. But she missed the real recording. My employee ID, clipped to the waistband of my trousers. It's heavier than the standard issue, a custom casing I'd built myself. I'd spent 3 weekends soldering the internals. A high-fidelity pinhole microphone, powered by a wafer battery, streaming encrypted audio to a private server in Estonia. It is recording right now. It is capturing the ammonia-laced air. It is capturing the sound of her bracelet scraping the server rack. It has captured her words. Smear. Grow up. And most importantly, maintenance. My cheek is a bonfire. The welt is hot and tight against the bone. I can feel my pulse in it. A dull, heavy throb. I will not cry. Crying is a concession. Crying is what she expects. Tears are for the weak, for the guilty. And in her world, they are the same thing. Celeste feeds on weakness. So I anchor myself, I detach. I listen to the building. Beyond the silent DVR, there is the main HVAC system, the building breathing, a deep, resonant thrum, a 10-second cycle. Inhale, hold, exhale. I count the beats. 1. Fabricated. 2. Smear. 3. The sharp click of her aluminum cuff as she adjusts it. 4. Maintenance. I am a human ledger. I am a risk analyst. This is not a family drama. This is a corporate assault. This is a breach of conduct, and I am documenting the incident. My mind is the primary backup. That HVAC hum. Thrum breathe. Thrum breathe. It's the heartbeat of the building, a machine unaware of the small, human violence that just occurred in its service closet. I focus on it until my own heartbeat slows to match it. Cold, mechanical, objective. She thinks in terms of power. Who has it? Who doesn't? Who can be silenced? Who can be hit? She sees me as a legacy hire, a sentimental inclusion in my father's world. She doesn't see the analyst. She doesn't see the person who finds patterns in the noise. The 3 a.m. payments weren't just anomalous. They were arrogant. She wanted them hidden, but she didn't respect me enough to hide them well. She assumed I would never look, or if I did, that I would be too afraid to ask. The welt on my face is the price of asking. She looks at me for a long moment. She is assessing the damage, not to my face, to her situation. She sees my silence, my stillness, and mistakes it for submission. This conversation is over. Rowan, she smooths the front of her blouse. Your audit is over. Stick to your spreadsheets. Leave the operations to me. It is the ultimate mistake. She turns her back on me. She believes the physical threat, the unplugged DVR, and the corporate seniority have terminated the inquiry. She thinks I am the same 19-year-old girl who stood weeping at her and my father's wedding, all those years ago. The pneumatic hiss of the heavy door opening, the whisper of its closer. the solid thud of the magnetic lock engaging. I am alone. The silence is absolute, save for the thrum of the building. The ammonia is finally making my eyes water. Or perhaps it's the pain. It doesn't matter. I wait. I count 60 full cycles of the HVAC. 10 minutes. An eternity. My hand raises. It's shaking. Not with fear. With a cold, sharp adrenaline. My fingers, analyst's fingers, touch my cheek. The skin is hot, sticky, and swollen, tight as a drumhead. I pull my fingers away and look at them under the harsh fluorescent light. No blood, just a raised, angry, red line. She used a corporate blind spot to attack me. I will use a domestic one to end her. I don't need this DVR. This room is compromised. The real data isn't here. It never was. The real data is at the Finch estate. My jaw aches from clenching it. Good. The pain is a tether. It keeps me present. The audit isn't over. It has just been escalated. I am going home, not to the empty condo my father pays for, but home. To the estate. Tonight. I will fix the glitch on the service gate's camera, the one that's been conveniently offline for 6 months. I will align the lens myself. I will add a new one, a doorbell cam, high def, cloud-based, linked to an account she doesn't know exists. I will aim it directly at the manicured cypress trees and the stone pathway. And I will wait for the 3 a.m. landscaping crew. I will catch them. And I will catch her. Halberd and Finch Logistics. Our slogan is carved into 3 tons of polished black granite in the lobby. Delivering trust. It's the first thing you see when you walk in. The last thing you see when you leave. Tonight. As I scanned my badge to exit the garage at 11:14 p.m., the throbbing welt on my cheekbone felt like a physical mockery of those 2 words. The friction of my seatbelt was agonizing. I drove my anonymous gray sedan out into Briarport's empty streets, the city lights smearing past. Trust. It's a good marketing word. Hollow as a drum. My father, Grant Finch, is the CEO. He's the Finch in Halberd and Finch. He built this empire from 3 trucks and a rented warehouse. He is a good man, a brilliant man, and a weak man. He was a widower for 3 years, lost in a fog of grief for my mother that settled over the entire Finch estate, muting the colors, silencing the house. Then came Celeste Hale. She didn't enter our lives softly. She entered like a corporate takeover. She was a VP of operations from a rival firm, brought in to consult. Within 6 months, she was streamlining our Pacific routes. Within a year, she was streamlining my father's life. 3 years to the day after my mother's memorial service, they were married at the city courthouse. No guests, just a press release to the Briarport Business Journal. I didn't join the family company as a Finch. I refused. I came in through the official leadership development program, a corporate boot camp designed to weed out the weak. I wanted to earn it. The irony is that the LDP recruits are held to a higher standard than the executives. We were the ones forced to sign the ironclad, page 20 NDA. I remember the clause, highlighted in yellow by HR. Employees level L4 and below are prohibited from fraternizing with other personnel. Prohibited from receiving personal guests at company-provided housing after 11:00. Violations are grounds for immediate termination. It was Celeste's pet policy. She called it maintaining a professional image. It was a leash, a way to ensure the junior staff, people like me, were kept separate, isolated, and controllable. It's funny, the rule was meant to stop me from having a life. She never imagined it would apply to her. Celeste built her entire identity around being the flawless executive, the unstepmother. She was never mom, she was Celeste, COO. Her uniform was a sterile white silk blouse, a blade-sharp blazer, and a gaze that could freeze water. Her brand was integrity. She broadcasted it. Her 5 a.m. Peloton ride would ping the executive health server. She'd send company-wide emails at 5:47 a.m. Subject line, seizing the day. She gave talks. God, the talks. Accountability as a core virtue. Radical transparency in leadership. I watched her stand on a stage at the Women in Logistics Summit, under a 50-foot banner of her own face, and talk about the burden of truth in management. She was, and is, a perfect, polished, magnificent lie. And for 6 months, I've been analyzing the data of that lie. It started in a quarterly budget review. A line item, landscape night shift. It was small, a rounding error, but it was my job to find the rounding errors that weren't. The cost had tripled in 6 months. I pulled the invoices. They were all approved by Celeste's executive assistant, all for work at the Finch estate, all for identical, repeating time slots. 3:00 a.m. to 3:18 a.m., 3:02 a.m. to 3:17 a.m., 2:59 a.m. to 3:16 a.m. A pattern, a tight, weirdly specific, automated-looking pattern. Who pays a landscape crew triple time for 18-minute bursts of work in the middle of the night? I cross-referenced the vendor. Greenridge Grounds, a new supplier, onboarded 6 months ago, the same week the night shift started. My car turned onto the long private drive of the Finch estate. The oaks, bare of leaves, were skeletons against the moon. The house is a fortress. My father, a man obsessed with logistics, had applied the same principles to his home. It's not just a smart house, it's an integrated data hub. I knew this because I helped him spec the system when I was in college. The security gates log every entry, every fob, every code, stamped to the millisecond, and the garden. The garden was my father's pride, but it was Celeste who insisted on the eco-friendly, high-efficiency irrigation system 2 years ago. It's a marvel of German engineering. It logs everything, every sprinkler head, every zone, every cycle, gallons used, duration, start time, end time. A perfect, immutable, minute-by-minute journal of water usage. A sprinkler log. I parked the car in the shadow of the 5-bay garage, far from the main house. The welt on my face was a cold, dull ache. I remembered the meeting, 3 weeks ago, my father's office, the one with the glass wall overlooking the entire logistics bay. I hadn't accused. I am a risk analyst. I present data. I laid out the spreadsheets. The landscape night shift expenditures are anomalous, I said, my voice calm. The invoices lack work order details. The time blocks are inconsistent with standard horticultural practices, and they correlate perfectly with nothing. What do you mean? Nothing. My father had frowned, adjusting his glasses, looking at the numbers like they were a foreign language. There is no corresponding data from the estate. Dad, the gate logs show no entry for Greenridge trucks at those times. The security perimeter is never breached, and I'd click to the final slide. The sprinkler log shows the system is offline. No watering, no maintenance, nothing. Celeste, sitting beside him, hadn't flinched. She'd looked at my charts, then at me, and she'd given me that thin, pitying smile. Rowan, this is excellent work, truly, but it's analytical overreach. You're in risk, not operations. I've personally vetted this vendor. They do quiet, off-hour soil testing and preventative treatments. We have a non-standard arrangement. It's handled. At 3 a.m., I'd pressed. For 18 minutes? It's sensitive work. They're professionals. The invoices, Celeste, are paid. She'd cut me off, her voice dropping that one dangerous degree. And approved. This is not a risk. This is a closed issue. I'd looked at my father, Grant Finch, CEO, delivering trust. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He was looking at the knots in his oak desk. Rowan, he'd said, his voice heavy with that familiar, weary disappointment. Celeste is handling it. It looks obsessive. You're auditing our own home. Please, don't embarrass the family. Let this go. I'd let it go. I had gathered my files, said, "Yes, sir," and walked out. He had chosen her. He had chosen the lie. He had chosen the path of least resistance. He'd asked me not to embarrass the family. And tonight, in Utility A3, she'd hit me for not letting it go. She'd hit me for following the data. She thought a slap on the face and a dead DVR would be the end of it. I got out of my car. The night was cold. My breath plumed. I walked, not to the front door, but around the side, through the wet grass, toward the service gate. The assault in the maintenance room changed the parameters. This was no longer a financial audit. It was a counter-operation. My father was right. It was embarrassing, but not for me. I stood in the shadows of the cypress trees, the same ones that lined the path from the service gate. I looked at the dark, dead lens of the official Finch security camera mounted on the wall, offline, just as I expected. I understood. To expose a hypocrite of Celeste's caliber, you need more than data. The numbers just made her angry. The spreadsheets just made my father uncomfortable. To make them see, to make it real, I needed the one thing they couldn't dismiss. I needed the data to have a face. I needed video. I needed a witness. I unzipped my laptop bag. Inside, nestled next to my encrypted hard drive, was a brand new, Wi-Fi-enabled doorbell camera. Small, black, and unassuming. I was done with spreadsheets. I was going to get them the truth, and I was going to deliver it. My cheek was a geography of pain, a raised, hot ridge that throbbed with the engine's low idle. I was parked on a gravel turnout half a mile from the estate, hidden by a stand of birches, the heater of my sedan fighting a losing battle against the 2 a.m. cold. This was the part of the job I understood. The waiting, the data collection. I'd spent 45 minutes at the service gate, my fingers numb, the small, powerful beam of my pen light shielded by my body. The official Finch security camera, a bulky white dome, was exactly as I'd left it 2 days prior. Lens cap still firmly affixed from the inside. A hardware failure I'd logged myself. Beside it, I'd mounted the new doorbell cam. It was small, black, and blended perfectly with the dark iron of the gatepost. I'd drilled not into the post, but into the mortar of the stone pillar beside it, a blind spot for the main house. The installation was clean. I'd powered it by splicing into the low-voltage line for the gate's own keypad. The Wi-Fi signal was strong. On my laptop, balanced on the passenger seat, I was logged in. Not as Rowan Finch, not as Rowan Calder. I was Irrigation Audit, a ghost in our own smart home system, a low-level admin account I'd created years ago to test water flow algorithms for a college project, an account Celeste didn't even know existed. My screen was split. On the left, the crisp, 4K, night vision feed from Irrigation Audit. On the right, the estate's main sprinkler log. For 2 hours, the feed was black, save for the ghostly infrared image of the cypress trees and the gravel path. The log was static. 2:56 a.m. The log remained unchanged. 2:57 a.m. A new line of code appeared on the log screen. Manual override. 2:57 a.m. User. Hail, admin. CMD, run cycle, zone, 4, soak, 20 man, pmine. A second later, my car's microphone picked up the distant sound. A hiss. A series of mechanical clicks. On the camera feed, I saw the mist. The sprinklers lining the cypress path had sprung to life, not in their usual sweeping arcs, but in a dense, low, steady soak cycle. It was white noise. It was a curtain of sound, perfectly calibrated to cover the crunch of footsteps on the gravel drive. It was scheduled. It was deliberate. My stomach tightened. This wasn't just a tryst. This was a procedure. 3:01 a.m. The feed remained empty. My breath fogged the windshield. I wiped it clear with my sleeve. The ache in my cheek sharpened. A reminder. Wait for the pattern. 3:02 a.m. Headlights. They sliced through the trees on the main road and then, suddenly, they vanished. The driver had cut them before making the turn onto the estate's private access road. A moment later, a vehicle coasted into the camera's frame, rolling to a silent stop just before the gate. A silver pickup truck, old model. The front license plate was missing. Just 2 empty screw holes in the bumper. As it passed under the dim yellow light of the gate lamp, I zoomed. The decal on the door was faded, peeling at the edges. Green Ridge Grounds. I was holding my breath. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The gate itself, a 10-foot slab of reinforced iron, should not have opened. No code was entered. No fob was scanned. It just slid open, a smooth, silent, hydraulic whisper. On the other side, framed in the camera's view, a figure had emerged from the service door of the main house, Celeste. She was a dark silhouette in dark jogging clothes, but as she raised her arm, I saw it. The bright, blue-white glow of her Apple Watch. The screen illuminated the underside of her chin, her grimly set mouth. She was tapping the Finch Home app. Service gate. Override open. She was the trigger. The truck door opened. A man got out. He was young. He wore a dark hoodie, but over it, a high-visibility reflective vest, the uniform of a laborer, the perfect camouflage for being somewhere you shouldn't. This was Jace. He carried no tools, no bags. His hands were empty. He slipped through the gate. Celeste didn't greet him. She just turned. He followed. They walked, side by side, directly into the wall of mist from the sprinklers and disappeared behind the thick, dark wall of the cypress trees. The path was now empty. The sprinklers hissed. My eyes snapped from the camera feed to the other log, the motion sensor log for Zone 4. The camera couldn't see them, but the house could feel them. 3:08:14 a.m. Event, motion, location, Z4 path rear. 3:08:19 a.m. Event, motion, location, Z4 path rear. They were moving. The new camera's microphone was sensitive. It was designed to pick up whispers at a doorstep. It fought against the hiss of the sprinklers, its processor trying to isolate human sound. 3:11:02 a.m. Event, motion, location, Z4 path rear. A sound cut through the static, a high, faint laugh, a woman's laugh, Celeste's. It was cut short, as if she'd stifled it with her hand. 3:12:40 a.m. A sharp, rasping sound, a zipper, not on a purse, a heavy-duty zipper. Zip, like the one on his jacket. My heart was a cold, hard stone in my chest. I wasn't watching an affair. I was watching a transaction. I was watching a security breach with a financial motive. This was the landscape retainer. 3:14:45 a.m. Event, motion, location, Z4 path rear. 3:15:21 a.m. Event, motion, location, Z4 path rear. 3:16:12 a.m. Event, motion, location, Z4 path rear. 9 motion events in total. 9 flags. 9 pieces of data proving someone was in a secured area, off camera, during the exact window of the phantom billing. 3:17 a.m. They reappeared. They stepped out from the cypress trees, back onto the gravel path, perfectly centered in the camera's frame. Jace was pulling his reflective vest straight. Celeste was running a hand over her hair, smoothing it, her face turned partially away from him, toward the house. They stood 2 feet apart. They looked like 2 employees finishing a late-night shift. She leaned toward him. Her face was now in profile, clear as day. She said something. I clicked the audio gain, filtering out the high-frequency sprinkler sound. Her voice, a low whisper, filled my headphones, as clear as if she were sitting next to me. Tomorrow, she said, her voice flat, cold, and final. I'll kill the audit. For good. Jace just nodded. He didn't speak. He looked at the ground. She turned and walked back toward the house, vanishing from the frame. 3:17 a.m. The sprinkler system log flashed. CMD, end cycle, zone 4, soak user, see hail, admin. The hiss and click of the sprinklers died. The silence that rushed in was deafening. 3:18 a.m. Jace walked back to his truck. He got in, put it in reverse, and backed out onto the access road. No headlights. He was a ghost. The service gate slid shut with a heavy metallic thud. The feed was empty again. I sat in the dark for a full 5 minutes. The only sound was the clicking of the car's engine as it cooled. The pain in my cheek was gone. It had been replaced by a freezing, perfect, crystalline certainty. I had her. I plugged in my hardware. First, the worm drive. Write once, read many. The data, once saved, could not be erased or altered. It was the digital equivalent of stone. I opened the irrigation audit cloud portal. I selected the file. 3 a.m. full capture, timestamp 10/27/25, MP4, 4.1 GB. I clicked download. I watched the progress bar creep across the screen, a slow, satisfying line of green. When it finished, I ejected the drive. Next, I inserted the USB, a military-grade, 256-bit AES encrypted drive. The password was 32 characters long, a randomized string of letters, numbers, and symbols I had memorized. I made the copy. Copying. Complete. I pulled the drive. It was cold to the touch. I had the video. I had the audio. I had the system logs. I had her voice, her face, her Apple Watch, the truck, the decal, and the lie. She didn't just have an affair. She used company funds to pay for it. She falsified invoices to cover it. She breached the estate's security protocols to conduct it, and she physically assaulted me in a secure room to stop me from finding it. "I'll kill the audit," she'd said. I looked at the small, dark USB in my hand. "No, you won't." The sun had not yet risen. I was back in my own condo. Showered. The welt on my face a muted purple shadow under a layer of concealer. I had slept for exactly 90 minutes. It was enough. The adrenaline was a clean, cold fuel. My movements were methodical. I was no longer a victim. I was an architect. I was building a cage. The first strut. Plausible deniability. I opened a new email from my official Halberd and Finch account. Not to my boss, not to my father, to Arthur Brandt, the head of corporate compliance. Arthur was a man who believed only in bylaws. To A. Brandt at Halberd Finch. Com. From R. Calder at Halberd Finch. Com. Subject oddity, off-hour landscaping invoices, Z4 Estate. Arthur. Flagging a minor pattern anomaly from a risk audit, a new vendor. Green Ridge Grounds has 6 months of repeating invoices for off-hour work at the Finch Estate. The invoices are approved by the COO's office but lack work order specifics. The notable detail is the timestamp. All work is logged between 0300 and 3:20. Requesting compliance review. If this vendor's billing and service agreement is aligned with our standard procurement protocols. Regards. Rowan Calder, Lead Risk Analyst. No emotion, no accusation, just a pattern anomaly. I was seeding the official record. I was creating a document that would be in progress when the real data dropped. Arthur would start digging. Slowly and by the book. He would find the shell corporation. He would find the payment loops. I was just pointing the compass. Second strut. The HR complaint. This was separate. A parallel track. I opened the internal HR portal and filed a formal report. Name of complainant. Rowan Calder. Names of involved parties. Celeste Hale. COO. Date of incident. October 26th, 2025. Time of incident. Approx. 10:36 p.m. Location. Utility A3, 14th floor. Summary of incident, 250 words max. During a secured area check of data hardware, I was engaged in a verbal disagreement with COO Hale regarding an active audit. The disagreement escalated. COO Hale made unwanted physical contact with me in a manner that felt threatening, resulting in a minor facial injury. The incident took place in a restricted camera area, Utility A3, after COO Hale manually disconnected the DVR, citing maintenance. I did not use the word beating. I did not use the word assault. Those words are emotional, debatable. Unwanted physical contact is a sterile, legal, undeniable HR violation. Manually disconnected the DVR is a security breach. I attached a photo of my cheek, time-stamped from that morning, the purple welt stark against the white background of my bathroom wall. I requested a formal meeting. Third strut. Corroborating the lie. I sent a ticket to it. 2. IT security at Halberd Finch. Com from R. Calder at halberdfinch.com. Subject, urgent, DVR. Log, confirmation, utility A3, 10 to 26. Team. Need a quick pull from the admin logs. Last night, approx. 10:30 p.m. I noted the DVR in utility A3 was offline. Can you confirm the exact time the unit was powered down? And which admin account, if any, authorized the shutdown or was active in that server closet's command line at that time? This is for a routine security compliance check. Need it by EOD. Rowan. It would not see this as an accusation. They would see it as a data request. They would check the logs. They would find only 2 accounts with the privileges to kill that feed without tripping a wider alarm. The on-duty night engineer, and C. Hale admin. The engineer's logs would show him on the 8th floor, running a patch. Celeste's admin account would be the only one active. I was building the evidence of a cover-up. 4th strut. The timeline. I filed another request, this one to building security. 2. Security physical at Halberd Finch. Com from R. Calder at Halberd Finch. Com. Subject log request, parking garage, P1. Exec Bay. 10:26, 10:27. Security team. Please pull all inbound/outbound footage for Bay 12. COO Hale, Black Mercedes, plate 88GR1N, for the period 10:02 p.m., Octi 26 to 0600 a.m., Octi 27. We have a data flag from her vehicle's telematics that suggests a system conflict with the garage sensor. Need to cross-reference the video logs with our network data. Thanks. R. Calder. A lie. A clean, technical lie. They wouldn't question a telematics flag. They would just pull the footage. The footage would show her black Mercedes leaving at 11:07 p.m. It would not show her returning. Why? Because she didn't come back in the Mercedes. I filed a second, broader request. Subject. Log request. Parking garage, P1. All bays. 02:00 a.m., 0300 a.m., 10:27. Team. Broadening the query. Please pull all vehicle arrivals at P1 between 0200 and 0300 a.m. We are checking for a network-wide sensor glitch. Rowan. The logs would show one vehicle arriving at 2:51 a.m., a dark blue Audi sedan, registered to a private LLC, parking in an unassigned bay. The footage would show Celeste Hale getting out, alone, wearing dark athletic clothing. She had left in her COO-assigned Mercedes and returned in her private, off-the-books car. She had returned specifically for the 3 a.m. rendezvous. She had planned it. 5th strut. The legal framework. I was out of my depth. I needed a specialist. I did not use my company phone. I used a burner. I called a lawyer. A woman I'd seen speak on a panel about executive malfeasance. Her name was Tara Singh. Her firm was small, sharp, and specialized in C-suite litigation. We met at 5:30 a.m. in a 24-hour diner that smelled of stale coffee and industrial disinfectant. I paid in cash. I have a hypothetical, I said. I slid a folder across the table. It did not contain the video. It contained the Halberd and Finch C-Level Executive Handbook and a copy of the standard NDA all senior VPs and officers must sign. A COO, I said, is diverting company funds to a shell vendor. The vendor provides no service. The payments are used for a personal arrangement. The COO uses corporate assets, security systems, administrative overrides to facilitate this, and the COO has falsified reports to cover the expenditure. Tara sipped her coffee, her eyes scanning the NDA. This isn't a hypothetical. Assume it is, I said. She tapped a clause. Section 4. The morality clause? It's an old one, but your father's company still has it. Conduct, whether public or private. That brings the company into disrepute, ridicule, or compromises its professional integrity. An affair is one thing, an affair with a paid contractor, using company funds, facilitated by a breach of company security. That's not just immoral, that's a terminable offense. She flipped the page. Section 7. Cause for termination. This is the one. Gross misconduct, willful breach of security protocols, material dishonesty, and fraudulent reporting. You're not looking at one, you're looking at all four. She's not just fired, she's fired for cause. No golden parachute, no severance. All unvested options are clawed back. And, she smiled, a thin, sharp smile. The company would be legally obligated to report the fraud to the authorities. Thank you, I said. That's what I needed to know. Sixth strut. The witness. This was the most delicate part. I had the video of Jace, but his testimony would chain the lock. I had run the plates on the Green Ridge grounds truck from the video. It was registered to a shell, but the driver's insurance, a legal requirement, was not. Jace Keller, age 24. He had a sister with a rare blood disorder, a sister enrolled at Briarport University, pre-med, a sister whose tuition was 2 months overdue. I found Jace at 6 a.m. at an all-night coffee shop near the university campus, the one he worked at before his landscaping job. He was exhausted, wiping down a counter, the same reflective vest folded on a stool behind him. I sat at the counter. He brought me water. Jace, I said quietly. His head snapped up. He recognized me. Not from the estate, from the company. He'd seen me with my father. His face went pale. I'm not here to get you in trouble, I said, a lie. I'm here to solve a problem. Your sister, Maya, her tuition is $18,400 per semester. She's on a delinquent payment plan. He stopped wiping. His hands were shaking. I don't know what you're talking about. Green Ridge grounds, I said. The invoices, they're fraudulent. Celeste is using you to embezzle money, and she's using you as a cover for other things at 3 a.m. His eyes shut. She said it was a private contract. She said it was all legal. She lied, and when the board finds out, they won't just fire her. They will prosecute everyone involved in the fraud. That includes you, the driver, the recipient of the funds. It was just, she paid me to show up, to be there, to talk. He looked sick. She paid me to just be there while she made calls. It doesn't matter what you did. Jace, it matters what the invoices said you did. Landscaping, a service that was never rendered. That is wire fraud. Your sister's tuition? That's proceeds of a crime. They can seize it. They can kick her out of school. He leaned on the counter, his face ashen. What do you want? A sworn affidavit. I slid a piece of paper across the counter. It was a cashier's check, made out to Briarport University, for $18,400. This is from a private discretionary fund I control. A grant. It is clean. It will pay Maya's tuition. Today, in exchange, you will go to my lawyer's office, right now, and you will sign a statement. A statement about what? About everything. The contract, the payments, the times, the sprinkler system, the conversations. Her saying she would kill the audit. Everything. You will be a witness. You will be granted full immunity in my report. You will be the victim of a predatory executive, which you are, or you can be her co-conspirator. Your choice. He looked at the check. He looked at my face, at the bruise I was sure he could see. Her office is 3 blocks from here, I said. She's waiting. He took off his apron. He picked up the check. Okay. The final piece. I returned to my condo. I opened my encrypted laptop. I created a new folder on my desktop. I put the video file inside, the audio file from my ID badge, the IT logs, the garage footage, the PDF of Jace's signed, notarized, and sworn affidavit, the bank records of the Green Ridge Shell Company, which my lawyer's PI had pulled in 20 minutes. I named the folder. A simple, clean title. The moment the trap was sprung, the moment she sealed her own fate. Project 317. The bruise on my cheek was a dull, satisfying ache under my makeup. It was Monday. 11:00 a.m. I was in conference room 8B, a sterile glass box smelling of whiteboard cleaner. I was presenting to the internal audit team. Mark Kinsley, the IA director, sat opposite me. He was a man with a gray face and gray ambition, a man who survived by finding small errors, never large ones. Today, I was giving him the large one. On the 80-inch screen was my slide. It was beautiful in its simplicity. A dual-axis line graph. The x-axis was the 24-hour clock. The left y-axis, in blue, was sprinkler water usage, gallons, Finch Estate. The right y-axis, in red, was vendor expenditure, Green Ridge Grounds. The blue line was predictable, a flat zero all day, a large, sensible spike at 5 a.m. for the morning watering, then flat again. The red line was the anomaly. It was zero all day, until 3:00 a.m. Between 3:00 a.m. and 3:20 a.m., it shot up like a skyscraper, a massive, isolated block of expenditure. Then, back to zero. "This is the pattern," I said, my voice flat, my laser pointer steady on the red spike. "As you can see, we have a significant cost spike from Green Ridge Grounds at approximately 3:00 a.m., Tuesdays and Fridays." Mark frowned, leaning forward. "But your other axis, the water usage, it's zero." "Correct," I said. "The invoices are for landscaping. The estate's own sprinkler log, an immutable data source, shows no corresponding horticultural activity, no watering, no soak cycles, no maintenance runs. We are paying triple time for a service that, according to our own systems, is not happening." I clicked to the next slide. It showed the date the Green Ridge budget was approved. It was a signature line. C. Hale, COO. The red spikes began on the graph exactly 1 day later. I never said her name. I didn't have to. The data spoke for me. "This isn't just a financial discrepancy," I continued, my voice cold. "This is a dual vector risk. Vector 1, potential for significant wire fraud. Vector 2, I let the words hang, a severe security breach." That got their attention. "Security breach?" Mark asked. "The vendor is invoicing for on-site work, yet the official Finch security logs for the service gate, the one this vendor would use, show no entries, no truck, no code, no fob. So, we have two possibilities. 1, the vendor is fraudulent, and no one is ever on property. This is simple fraud. Or 2, the vendor is on property, and they are bypassing our multi-million-dollar security system. This is a critical breach." The room was silent. I had given them fraud and a security failure. They were hooked. "We need to verify this," Mark said. His gray face suddenly animated. This was a career maker. "We'll run a random site verification. Tonight, Wednesday, Friday. We'll see who shows up." I held up a hand. "The pattern is specific. Mark, the invoices are for Tuesdays and Fridays. If you want to confirm or deny this specific vendor's activity, a random audit might miss them. You need to be there when the pattern occurs." He saw my point. "Okay, Tuesday, tomorrow night, we'll set up a surveillance team." "Good," I said, packing my laptop. "I'll coordinate with IT to ensure your team has access to the live logs." My last move of the day was catching my father. He was walking out of a budget meeting, looking tired, his tie loose. "Dad," I said, catching the door. He sighed, the familiar weariness in his eyes. "Rowan, I hope you're not—" "This is about my leadership training," I said, cutting him off cleanly. "Internal audit is running a live-fire exercise tomorrow night, a real-time verification of a potential security breach at the estate. I'm observing. I thought it would be valuable for my development if I could see how you and the C-suite handle a real-time risk assessment, to see the decision-making process at your level." I was playing to his one weakness, his desire to be a mentor, to be the CEO. I wasn't his daughter asking him to believe her. I was his junior executive requesting leadership training. He paused, He hated this, but he couldn't say no. What time? The anomaly occurs at 3 a.m. The observation will start at 2:45 a.m. He looked pained. Fine. Rowan, 2:45, in the 14th floor security room. Tuesday night, 2:45 a.m. The room was dark, lit only by a wall of monitors. It was me, my father, Mark Kinsley from Audit, and an IT security lead named Diaz. The air was thick with the smell of stale coffee and anxiety. Okay, Mark said, his voice a professional whisper. We are live. Monitor 1. Sprinkler log. Monitor 2. Gate security log. Monitor 3. Admin command log. Monitor 4. Live camera. Service gate. My father stood with his arms crossed, his face a mask of exhausted patience. He was here to watch a training exercise that would, he was sure, find nothing. He was here to humor his obsessive daughter. The clocks on the monitors ticked. 2:56 a.m. All logs were static. The camera feed showed an empty, dark gate. 2:57 a.m. A new line of code flashed green on monitor 1. Manual override. 2:57 a.m. User. Chale admin, CMD, run cycle, zone 4, soak, 20 min. My father's head snapped up. He looked at Diaz. Is that real? He asked, his voice sharp. Diaz tapped his keyboard. That's an admin command, sir. It just activated the Zone 4 sprinklers. The command originated from an IP address linked to the COO's smartwatch. My father's face went pale. He stared at the screen. Chale admin. Okay, Mark said, his voice suddenly tight. She's active, and she's masking sound at the service gate, just like the pattern suggested. All eyes turned to monitor 4, the camera feed. 3:01 a.m. Nothing. The gate was empty. 3:02 a.m. A silver pickup truck coasted into view. No headlights. It stopped. There, Mark whispered. That's the vendor? It has to be, Diaz said. But the gate isn't opening. The gate log is clean. He's not putting in a code. We watched. The man in the truck sat there. And then, from the side of the frame, Celeste walked into view from the house. She was wearing dark clothes. She raised her arm. On monitor 3, the admin log flashed. CMD, gate service override open user, Chale admin. The heavy iron gate slid open. The man, Jace, got out of the truck. They didn't speak. They walked, one after the other, past the gate and disappeared behind the cypress trees, into the mist of the sprinklers she had just turned on. My father made a sound, a small, choked gasp. She's breaching our own security, Mark whispered, stunned. She's using her admin privileges to bypass physical security and let in an unauthorized person. But the camera, Diaz said, confused. We can't see what they're doing. They're behind the trees. The camera angle is wrong. Mark was frantic. This is a breach. But we don't have the act. We don't know what they're doing. This was my cue. In my pocket, my hand was already on my burner phone. I had the email pre-typed. The recipient was Mark Kinsley's personal work email. The sender was security, breach, alert at Proton, me. I pressed send. A second later, Mark's laptop, sitting on the console, pinged. What the hell? He muttered. He clicked it open. We all watched as he read the email. His eyes went wide. What is it? My father demanded. It's an anonymous tip. It just came in, right now. Mark read it aloud. Subject: You are looking at the wrong camera. The email contained a single, simple hyperlink. Don't click that, Diaz said, jumping forward. It could be malware. It could be... It's a standard cloud video link, Mark said, his fingers trembling. It looks like a feed from a doorbell. He clicked it. My video feed, Project 317, flooded the main monitor. The image was sharp. 4K. Perfect infrared. It was the angle from the gatepost, the one I had installed. It showed the entire path. It showed the silver truck. It showed Celeste's face, clear as day. It showed her tapping her watch. It showed Jace. And it showed them walking behind the cypress trees. The microphone was so sensitive it picked up the sound of her low laugh and the distinct zip of his jacket. My father stopped breathing. He was watching his wife, the COO of his company, committing a financial crime and a massive security breach, all in crystal clear high definition, time-stamped to match the fraudulent invoices. The video feed continued. We watched, in horrified silence, for the full 18 minutes. We watched them step back out. We watched Jace get in his truck and leave. We watched my feed as, on monitor 2, the official camera log showed nothing. Mark Kinsley stared, his mouth open. He was no longer a man. He was a heart attack in a gray suit. My father leaned against the wall. He looked like he had been struck by lightning. The betrayal was absolute, not just of his marriage, but of his company, his trust. Mark was the first to move. He picked up his phone. He wasn't calling HR. He was calling the top. "Janet," he said, his voice shaking. "Get Arthur. Get the entire legal team. We have a code red C-level breach. Active. Confirmed. We need to call a special session of the board. 9:00 a.m. tomorrow." I stood in the back of the room, invisible. I said nothing. I just watched the data do its work. The 3 a.m. discovery in the security room was the detonation. What followed was the shockwave. Wednesday and Thursday were not days. They were a controlled demolition. The 9:00 a.m. Friday summons wasn't a sudden event. It was the inevitable, calculated collapse of a structure we had been weakening, support by support, for 48 hours. The first support to go was the vendor, Greenridge Grounds. By 8:00 a.m. Wednesday, Janet, our general counsel, a woman who wore her severity like a perfectly tailored suit, had locked down the 15th floor boardroom. It was now the war room. Present, Janet, Arthur Brandt from compliance, the head of IT security, and me. My father was pointedly not invited to this part. This was the clinical, legal dissection. "Greenridge Grounds," Arthur reported, his voice flat, reading from a newly printed report. "It's a shell. Articles of incorporation filed 7 months ago. Bare bones. It has one listed officer, a single director." "Who?" Janet asked, not looking up from her own notes. "Amanda Riley." The IT lead did a quick keyboard clatter. "Amanda Riley. She's in our system. Active employee." He paused, and his eyes widened. She's the executive assistant to the COO." A cold, sterile silence settled over the room. This wasn't just fraud. This was a conspiracy. "Find the money," Janet commanded. It took her team of forensic accountants 2 hours. The money didn't stay with Greenridge. Halbert and Finch paid the invoices, my 3:00 a.m. invoices, to Greenridge's business account. Within 48 hours, 95% of that money was transferred out. It was routed, not as a salary, but as a consulting fee to a different entity. A second LLC, Briarwood Holdings. "And who," Janet said, her voice dangerously quiet, "is Briarwood Holdings?" This one took an external trace. By 1:00 p.m., we had the answer. The registered agent and sole beneficiary was a man named Martin Hale, Celeste's brother. It was perfect. A closed loop. She approved the budget line. Her assistant, as director of the shell, filed the invoices. The money was paid. The assistant transferred the funds to Celeste's brother. A clean, simple, and utterly arrogant act of embezzlement. That evening, I was summoned to my father's office. The war room team was there. Janet, Arthur. My father sat behind his massive oak desk, not as a CEO, but as a man waiting for a verdict. He looked 10 years older than he had on Tuesday. This was my part. The video was the visceral proof, but the money was the kill shot. The video was a breach of trust. The money was a breach of his company. I didn't use the projector. I didn't use a spreadsheet. I walked forward and placed a single, laminated A3-size sheet of paper in the center of his desk, under the pool of light from his green banker's lamp. It was a flowchart. It was stark, black and white, arrows, dates, and account codes. Not a single emotional word, no adjectives. A box on the left. H&F Logistics, Act Time, 451. An arrow, labeled Invoice, 3 a.m. cycle, pointed to the middle box. Greenridge Grounds, Dear A. Riley, Oct. 882. A second arrow, labeled Consulting Fee, 95% transfer, pointed to the final box. Briarwood Holdings, LLC, Agent M. Hale, Act T. 730. It was the entire crime on one page. Next to the chart, I placed the stack of invoices, the originals. I had requested them from accounts payable. I fanned them out, one by one, like a losing poker hand. Each invoice had Amanda Riley's signature authorizing payment, and above it, on the budget approval line for each month, was the signature I knew as well as my own. Celeste Hale. Celeste Hale. Celeste Hale. Her signature was bold, confident, a slashing C and a high-flying T, the signature of a woman who never believed she would be audited. My father stared at the flowchart. He stared at the signatures. I watched his hand. He reached out, his fingers, the same fingers that had taught me to tie my shoes, to sign my first paycheck, trembled. Not a violent shake, but a high-frequency, geriatric tremor that betrayed the shock warring with the denial. He touched his wife's name, traced the ink, as if to see if it was real. He did not, and could not, look at me. He just stared at the proof that his wife was not just an adulterer, but a thief. The second pressure point? Optics. Thursday morning, the war room. A new face was present. Sandra Hayes, our head of PR. She was pale, and she was holding a file. My HR file. My report on the unwanted physical contact in Utility A3 had finally landed on the C-suite desk. The fraud, Janet had explained, was containable for now. It was an internal legal matter. The assault was not. "Forget the money," Sandra said, her voice tight with a suppressed panic. "Janet can bury the fraud in lawsuits and clawbacks for a year. This," she tapped the file, "this is the bomb. This is the thing that kills us." My father looked up, his eyes bloodshot. "What are you talking about?" "Grant," Sandra said, with the pained patience of a doctor delivering a bad diagnosis. "You have a COO who is proven to be in a relationship with a paid contractor. She falsified invoices. She breached security. And when a junior analyst, who happens to be your daughter, gets close to the truth, the COO lures her into a restricted room, manually disconnects the security camera, and assaults her. This isn't just a firing. This is a scandal, a massive one." She turned to the room. "If the Briarport Journal, or God forbid, a national outlet, gets a whisper of this, COO of Halbert and Finch assaults employee to cover up fraud. Our stock will drop 20 points by lunch. Our slogan is, delivering trust. It will become a national punchline. We will lose the UPS contract. We will lose Amazon. We will be ruined by the optics." The room was suffocating. All the air had been sucked out. Janet, Arthur, my father, they all looked at me. I was the analyst who found the data. I was the daughter who was betrayed. But in this room, I was something far more dangerous. I was the victim. I was the only one who could go public. I waited. I let the silence stretch. Let them feel the weight of what I held. Finally, I spoke. My voice was quiet. I looked at Janet, the general counsel. "I have no interest in talking to the Journal." I could feel the collective exhale. My father slumped. A quiet, broken sound. "My HR complaint," I continued, "is about an internal workplace safety issue. We can keep this in-house." I paused, and my eyes met my father's. If the truth is told in-house, the message was clear. There would be no cover-up. There would be no quiet resignation. There would be no stepping down for personal reasons. There would be truth, her career, in exchange for my silence. The third pressure point was Celeste herself. She was smart. She must have felt the ice forming. Arthur Brandt's sudden, polite, and unavoidable questions. Janet's legal team suddenly auditing all of her assistant's files. The whispers. The closed-door meetings she was not invited to. Thursday afternoon, I was at my desk, trying to normalize, trying to run a standard risk assessment on fuel futures. My phone buzzed. Not my company phone. My personal one. A text from an unknown number. Withdraw or you're out. 5 words, no signature, none needed. It was the last, reflexive kick of a cornered predator. The arrogance was breathtaking. She was still threatening me. She still believed this was a power struggle. A simple corporate knife fight she could win by intimidation. She thought this was about my job. She didn't realize she was threatening the star witness in a criminal investigation. She didn't realize she had just provided the final nail for her own coffin. I did not reply. I took a screenshot, the cursor, the timestamp, 14:32 p.m. I forwarded the image to Janet, Arthur, and my personal lawyer, Tara Singh. Subject threat witness tampering, 14:32 p. 10:29. The response from Janet was immediate. A single word. Noted. This text changed everything. It escalated the HR complaint from assault to retaliation and witness intimidation. It gave the board the final, clean justification they needed. At 4 p.m., Janet and my father walked out of the war room. My father looked gray. Janet looked resolved. She walked to my desk. "Rowan," she said, her voice formal. "The preliminary investigation is closed. The board has been briefed on all findings, the financial malfeasance, the security breaches, the HR complaint, and the subsequent communication." She meant the text. "They have voted unanimously via secure message. A formal summons is being delivered to Celeste Hale at this moment. She is required to appear before a special session of the Board of Directors tomorrow morning at 9:00 a.m. to answer these findings. She has been invited to bring her legal counsel." The trap was set. The doors were locked. All the data was loaded. All that was left was for the liar to walk into the room. I looked at the folder on my encrypted drive. Project 317. I was ready. 9:00 a.m., Friday. The North Wing boardroom is a cage of glass and polished steel, suspended 28 floors above the gray, choppy waters of Briarport Harbor. The room is cold. The famous walnut table is so large and dark. Its surface reflects the long, fluorescent lights of the ceiling like a black, still lake. It is a table built to absorb conflict, to swallow sound. The digital display outside the smoked glass door reads, 9:00 a.m., special session, closed. The board is already here. Robert Shaw, the chairman, sits at the head, his face an impassive granite mask. Janet, our general counsel, sits to his right, a stack of bound documents before her. Arthur from compliance, 2 other independent directors, their faces grim. And my father, Grant Finch. He sits at the far end, looking small in his own boardroom, his eyes fixed on the empty chair to his left. He is not the CEO today. He is a husband. I am seated at a small, secondary table against the wall, next to the IT console. I am not a board member. I am the analyst. I am the witness. The door opens with a heavy pneumatic hiss. Celeste Hale walks in. She is a performance, a masterpiece of calculated restraint. She wears her armor, a sterile white silk blouse, buttoned to the collar, gray, sharp trousers, no jewelry, no engagement ring, no wedding band, not even her signature aluminum bracelet. Her hair is pulled back into a bun so tight it seems to pull the skin at her temples. She carries a single, slim leather portfolio and a bottle of Voss water. She is not a wife. She is not a stepmother. She is the chief operating officer, here to address a bothersome procedural matter. She radiates an aura of crisp, executive impatience. "Robert," she says, her voice clear and bright, nodding to the chairman. "Janet." She does not look at my father. She does not look at me. She sits, placing her portfolio on the black walnut. She clicks open a silver pen. She is calm. She is ready. Celeste, Robert Shaw begins, his voice a low rumble. We are here to review the findings of a critical compliance and security audit. The board has been briefed on several disturbing irregularities. We are giving you this opportunity to address them. Of course, Celeste says, that thin smile touching her lips. I am always happy to help clarify things for the board. Good. Shaw's eyes are flat. Let us begin with Friday, October 26th, approximately 10:36 p.m., Utility Room A3. The smile on Celeste's face doesn't vanish, but it freezes. The muscles in her jaw tighten. The primary security DVR for the 14th floor executive corridor was powered down, manually. The gap in surveillance lasted 9 minutes and 41 seconds. In a secure data hub, Janet speaks. The IT logs, Mr. Diaz, if you would. From my console, the IT security lead, Diaz, speaks into the room's microphone, his voice amplified. The system log shows the unit was not rebooted. It was a power disconnect command, originating from the server's local admin port, the only administrative account active in that quadrant at that time. Diaz pauses, reading from his screen. Was Hail admin. The board looks at Celeste. She doesn't blink. That's correct. I was inspecting the hardware. The unit's fan was cycling erratically. I performed a hard shutdown to let the processor cool. It is standard troubleshooting. I filed a verbal report with the night engineer. Diaz speaks again. Sir, the night engineer's logs show no such report, and the fan's diagnostic sensors show it was operating within normal parameters all night. A direct contradiction. The first crack in her armor. Celeste leans forward. She is done with defense. She pivots to offense. Robert, this is a tedious procedural dispute. Why is the entire board convened for a DVR? This is a waste of capital. She turns, and her gaze, for the first time, lands on me. It is a physical force, pure, cold, concentrated contempt. Unless this isn't about a fan, this is about her. She points at me. This is about Rowan Calder's ludicrous, opportunistic HR complaint. You've all read it, I assume? Shaw's face is unreadable. We are also reviewing the allegation of workplace violence that occurred during that 9-minute surveillance gap. Celeste laughs. It is not a sound of humor. It is a sharp, percussive burst of air. Violence? That is what she's calling it? Robert, this is insane. She confronted me in a utility closet, hysterical, making wild accusations about my audits. She was unstable. I told her to go home. That's all. This... She gestures at me again, dismissing my entire existence. This is a pathetic, transparent fabrication. She's been gunning for my position since the day I married her father. She is lying to gain a promotion. It is the most desperate, unprofessional thing I have ever witnessed. The independent directors shift. They look at me, the stepdaughter, the analyst, the accuser. They see the motive she has just handed them. My father closes his eyes. He looks like he's going to be sick. I do not look at her. I look at Robert Shaw. Mr. Chairman, may I respond to the Chief Operating Officer's allegation that I am lying? Proceed, Miss Calder. I stand. I walk from the console to the main table. I place a small, black, digital audio recorder on the walnut. Its screen is dark. Celeste is correct about one thing, I say, my voice perfectly level. The security camera was off. I look at her. Her hands are gripping her silver pen, the knuckles white. But my employee ID badge was not. The color drains from her face. It vanishes so fast she looks like a corpse. The blood has left her. She knows what is on my ID. I press the play button. The boardroom's theater-grade speakers fill the room with sound. Not a boardroom, a utility closet. The deep, 10-second thrum of the building's HVAC. My voice, thin, metallic. The 3 a.m. landscape retainer payments are anomalous. Her voice, hissing, close to the microphone. You fabricated phantom expenses. You thought you could smear me? Me? And then, the sound. A scrape, a sharp click, and a heavy, wet thwack. The sound of brushed aluminum striking bone. It echoes in the dead silent room. It is followed by her voice, a whisper that is louder than a scream. Stop lying. I press stop. The silence that follows is absolute. It is a vacuum. The allegation, she is lying for a promotion, is dead. The audio file has just annihilated it. My father is openly weeping, his hand over his mouth. The other directors are staring at Celeste, their faces a mixture of shock and pure disgust. Celeste is staring at me. The mask of the COO is gone. The calm is gone. Her face is a rictus of pure, unrestrained hatred. The allegation of violence is now established, I say, my voice cutting through the silence. The reason for the violence was the audit I was presenting, the one she was desperate to kill. I pick up the remote for the 80-inch monitor at the end of the room. The special session logo vanishes. Now, I say, let's talk about the 3 a.m. lie. The screen is now my dashboard, my analysis. This is the data the COO assaulted me to suppress. I am an analyst again. I am on solid ground. At 2:57 a.m., Tuesdays and Fridays, the Finch Estate sprinkler system is manually activated. The command originates, as it confirmed, from the COO's smartwatch. It is a sound mask. I click. A high-resolution photo of the silver truck fills the screen. The logo, Green Ridge Grounds, is peeling, but legible. At 3:02 a.m., this vehicle arrives. It is granted access not by the gate's keypad, but by a manual security override from the C-Hail admin account. I click, the sprinkler log, the gate log, the admin log, all side by side. The pattern is a perfect loop, breach of security, facilitated by C-level credentials, to conceal the entry of an unauthorized person, Jace Keller. I click, the flowchart of the money. Who is then paid? Via a shell company. For a landscaping service that never occurs. The shell company is directed by her assistant. The money is funneled to her brother. I put the remote down. This is the fraud. This is the security breach. This is the lie I was told to stop telling. The room is heavy. Celeste, however, is recovering. She is a survivor. She sees the looks. She knows she's lost the assault. She knows she's lost the fraud. She has one card left to play, to frame me as the criminal. My God, she says, her voice shaking, but not with fear, with manufactured rage. She stands. This is an obsession, a sick, twisted obsession. You put a camera. You've been stalking me? You sat in the bushes and recorded me? This is a violation of my privacy. This is illegal. She is good. She is turning it. She is painting me as the jealous stepdaughter, a stalker who faked a crime. A movie? She scoffs, her voice rising. This is incredible. Did you direct a whole movie by yourself, Rowan? Did you hire an actor? Is this all fake? This is character assassination. A movie, I repeat. I look at her. That's an interesting theory. Celeste, that I, alone, directed this entire production, that I hired an actor. I turn to Robert Shaw. Mr. Chairman, with all due respect to the COO, she is correct. A production of this magnitude is not a solo endeavor. Every director needs a co-star. I walk to the main boardroom door, my heels clicking on the floor. I took the liberty of inviting one more guest to this special session. He is waiting in the hallway. Celeste's face freezes. The accusation dies on her lips. I open the heavy glass door. Jace Keller is standing there. He looks like he's going to vomit. He is wearing a cheap, ill-fitting black suit and a tie that is knotted far too tightly. He is not alone. A woman stands beside him, sharp, focused, and holding a briefcase. Tara Singh, she says, striding into the room, her voice projecting authority. I am counsel for Mr. Jace Keller. Jace follows her in, terrified, his eyes finding Celeste. Celeste makes a sound, a small, involuntary gasp. Jace? His name is a question, a plea, a curse. The board members are on their feet. My father looks at Jace, then at his wife, and the final, brutal pieces of the puzzle click into place. Tara Singh walks to the center of the walnut table. She opens her briefcase and places a thick, bound document in the center of the black reflection. This, she announces to the room, is the sworn, notarized, and signed affidavit of my client, Jace Keller. It details his recruitment by COO Celeste Hale. It details the fraudulent payment structure of Green Ridge Grounds. It details the precise nature of the 3 a.m. services, and it corroborates, to the letter, Ms. Calder's movie. She looks at Celeste, her smile thin and dangerous. My client is here to confirm his testimony, and he has brought copies for every member of the board. Jace's affidavit landed on the walnut table with a heavy, final thud. It was the sound of a coffin lid closing. Celeste's face was no longer pale. It was a mottled, dangerous red. The hatred she had reserved for me was now redirected to Jace, who flinched, visibly, and took a half-step back behind his lawyer. "This is," Celeste began, her voice a strangled whisper. "This is conspiracy. You paid him. This is bribery. He's a disgruntled contractor, and she," her finger trembled, pointing at me, "she is a vindictive child. This is private. None of this is real." "You're right," I said. My voice cut through her panic. Everyone turned to me, even Celeste, momentarily stunned into silence. "A document can be faked," I said. "Testimony can be bought. Jace could be lying. I could be lying. The data logs," I gestured to the screen showing the text-based logs. "They're just numbers, impersonal, easy to dismiss as a glitch." I looked at Celeste. "You called it a movie. You were close. It's not a movie, it's raw footage. And the problem with 4K video is that it doesn't lie." I picked up the remote. "This is Project 317, I said. "In full?" I hit play. The 80-inch monitor, which had been showing the static flowchart of her fraud, blinked to life. It was not a log. It was not a graph. It was the black and white, infrared feed from my doorbell camera. The boardroom was silent. We were all transported to the 3 a.m. darkness of the Finch Estate service gate. The timestamp in the corner, bright white, read 3:02:14 a.m. We watched the silver truck roll silently into view. We watched the main gate slide open. We watched Celeste, a dark figure, emerge from the house. And we watched her raise her arm. The bright, self-illuminating screen of her Apple Watch flared in the darkness, a beacon of blue-white light. Her face, arrogant and clear, was lit from below as she tapped the override command. "The logs are real." Diaz, the IT lead, whispered, That's the admin command. She's triggering it." The video continued. Jace got out. He looked nervous. He was in his reflective vest. They didn't speak. They walked. They walked directly into the cypress grove, shielded by the mist from the sprinklers she had activated. The microphone, straining against the white noise of the water, picked up the sounds, the rustle of clothing, the snap of a twig. And then, her hand. It was unmistakable. Her left hand. She reached out and grabbed the front of Jace's reflective vest. She pulled him. It was not a romantic gesture. It was a command, an impatient summons. The sound of his jacket zipper, loud and harsh in the quiet room. They vanished behind the trees for 8 minutes. The timestamp in the corner of the screen ticked forward, a digital clock counting down her career. 3:03 a.m. 3:08 a.m. 3:16 a.m. Then, at 3:17:04 a.m., we heard her voice, cold and clear, filtering through the hiss. "Tomorrow, I'll kill the audit. For good." We watched them step back into view. We watched Jace nod, his face pointed at the ground. We watched her turn, her back to him, and stride back to the house. The timestamp hit 3:18:22 a.m. The truck was gone. The gate was closed. I pressed stop. The screen went black. For 10 full seconds, the only sound was the ventilation system and the frantic, panicked breathing of Celeste Hale. "Private!" She screamed it. The word was a physical explosion, echoing off the glass walls. It was the raw, primal shriek of an animal caught in a trap. "That is my private life. You cannot. It is illegal. You have no right. It's my private." It stopped being private, Celeste. Robert Shaw's voice was not a shout, but a roar. It was a wave of pure, cold thunder that crushed her scream into silence. The chairman was on his feet, his massive hands pressed flat on the walnut table. "The moment you used the C. Hale admin account to bypass corporate security, it stopped being private when you paid for it with a fraudulent invoice from Greenridge Grounds. It stopped being private when you used company assets, company funds, and your C-level authority to facilitate it." He sat down, his face flushed with a controlled, righteous fury. He straightened his tie. He looked at Janet, the general counsel. "Janet, please read the relevant articles." Janet, who had not flinched, opened one of the bound documents in front of her. Her voice was the antidote to Celeste's panic. It was cold, clinical, and final. "Pursuant to the Halbert and Finch C-level executive agreement, signed by Celeste Hale on May 1st, 2021, we are invoking Section 7 termination for cause." She read from the page. Cause includes, but is not limited to, 1. Willful breach of company security protocols, as evidenced by the manual override of gate and surveillance systems. 2. Material dishonesty and fraudulent reporting, as evidenced by the creation and approval of the Greenridge Grounds vendor loop. 3. Gross misconduct and conflict of interest, as evidenced by the financial relationship with Mr. Jace Keller, funneled through the aforementioned fraudulent entity. And 4. Janet's eyes flicked up to meet Celeste's. The morality clause, defined as conduct that brings the company into disrepute, as evidenced by the totality of these findings. The words hung in the air. Termination for cause, no severance, no golden parachute, no soft landing. The fight was gone. Celeste crumpled. The mask of the COO, the mask of the wife, the mask of the predator, it all dissolved. She was just a woman, exposed, defeated, and utterly ruined. Her gaze, desperate, found the one person in the room she thought she still owned. She turned to my father. "Grant," she whispered. Her voice was soft now, broken, pleading, the voice she must have used when they first met. "Grant, please, don't let them do this. I did it for us. The money. It was for us, for our future, for this family. Grant, look at me." Every eye in the room turned to Grant Finch, the CEO, the husband. He was sitting perfectly still, his hands clasped on the table in front of him. He did not look at her. He did not look at anyone. He was staring at his left hand. He was staring at the heavy, platinum wedding band that she had placed on his finger 3 years ago. He stared at it as if it were a foreign object, a manacle he had just discovered. He turned his hand over, slowly, stared at his palm. He said nothing. That silence was his answer. It was the sound of a door being locked, the sound of her final and most profound betrayal. Celeste made a small, choking sound. "And," Janet continued, as if Celeste had not spoken, "we have this." She slid a piece of paper across the table. It was a letter, received via fax at 8:30 a.m. "This is from the legal counsel of Amanda Riley, your former assistant. In exchange for cooperation, she has provided a full confession. She confirms Greenridge Grounds was a shell, that you directed its creation, and that the invoices were, in her words, solely to cover personal payments for the COO. The paper trail is now closed." It was over. Every escape route was blocked. Every lie was countered with a fact. Every denial was crushed by a recording. Celeste just stared at the black, reflective surface of the table. I stood up. I walked to the head of the table, next to the chairman. I took the small, black encrypted USB drive from my pocket. Project 317. I placed it in the center of the table. It was tiny against the vast expanse of walnut. That, I said, my voice quiet, is the master file. It contains the video, the audio from the assault in Utility A3, the sworn affidavit, and the complete financial trace. I looked at Celeste. Her eyes were dead. All other copies, digital and physical, are in escrow with my attorney. They are sealed. I let the implication hang in the air. Sealed. For now. There will be no leaks to the press. There will be no scandal. Halbert and Finch will handle this, as I said, in-house. My gaze hardened. Unless, of course, she ever calls me a liar again. The resolution was swift. The air in the boardroom, heavy with the digital ghost of 3:17 a.m., could not hold debate. Jace and his lawyer, Tara Singh, were quietly escorted by Janet's paralegal to a separate office to finalize the immunity paperwork, leaving a profound, suffocating vacuum in their wake. Celeste was still seated. She had not moved. She was a statue of a COO, her hands flat on the table, her gaze fixed on the black USB drive I had left in the center. Robert Shaw, the chairman, did not wait for her to speak. The vote, I realized, had been taken before she ever entered the room. This was not a trial. This was a sentencing. The board's resolution is unanimous. Shaw's voice was a flat, industrial sound. Effective immediately, Celeste Hale's employment as Chief Operating Officer of Halbert and Finch Logistics is terminated, for cause. He let the words hang. For cause. The two most brutal words in corporate law. Pursuant to Section 7 of your employment agreement, Shaw continued, reading from a sheet. All unvested stock options are hereby forfeited. All vested options are frozen. All annual bonuses paid during the last 12 months, corresponding to the period of the fraudulent activity, will be subject to a full clawback. The company's legal department will initiate that claim by Monday. My father did not move. Furthermore, Shaw said, his eyes hard, General Counsel is instructed to prepare the complete findings. This file, specifically regarding the wire fraud and embezzlement, will be referred to the District Attorney's Office for financial prosecution. A small, broken sound escaped Celeste's throat. Prosecution. This wasn't just a firing. This was prison. Shaw then turned his gaze to me. The anger from his outburst was gone, replaced by a weary professional gravity. Ms. Calder, the board extends its gratitude. You have uncovered a deep and dangerous vulnerability. Janet has informed us of your conditions, should this resolution be met. I stood. I was no longer the analyst. I was a party to a negotiation. They are unchanged. Mr. Chairman, first, my HR complaint regarding the assault is to be permanently sealed. My name will never be publicly associated with that incident. In the company's records, I am the analyst who uncovered fraud. Nothing more. Granted, Shaw said instantly. Second, the company's security was compromised using C-level credentials. This reveals a systemic failure. Halbert and Finch will fund a new, permanent internal security program, a red team division, tasked with actively trying to breach our own systems to find and patch these vulnerabilities before our enemies do. I paused. I will lead it. Shaw and the other directors exchanged a glance. It was a power play, but it was also the only logical solution. Granted, Shaw said. You will draft the charter with IT and General Counsel. You will have the full resources of this board. Janet, our General Counsel, took this as her cue. She rose and walked to Celeste's side. She slid a single thick document across the vast table, a separation agreement. This is the termination agreement. Celeste, Janet said, her voice quiet, almost gentle, which made it all the more terrifying. It outlines the terms of your dismissal. It also includes a non-disclosure and non-disparagement clause. If you sign it, it will be the only thing protecting you from a separate and very public civil suit for damages from this company. I advise you to sign. Celeste was hollow. She didn't read it. She didn't have to. She picked up the slim, silver pen she had brought with her, the one she had clicked so confidently at the start of the meeting. Her hand was shaking, not a tremor, a violent, uncontrollable palsy. She tried to sign her name. The pen skittered on the page. Celeste Hale. It was not the bold, slashing signature from the fraudulent invoices. It was a cramped, spidery, broken thing, a child's signature. As she leaned forward, her face hovered over the black, mirror-polished surface of the walnut. The harsh fluorescent lights from the ceiling hit her from above, and the reflection that stared back up was a grotesque caricature. Her mouth was a twisted line. Her eyes were black, hollow pits, a perfect, distorted reflection of the self she had hidden for so long. She pushed the paper back, leaving a small, damp smear from her palm. She stood, her chair scraping. No one stood with her. She walked, unsteadily, to the boardroom door. She did not look at my father. She did not look at me. She opened the door and was gone. I left the boardroom. The air in the hallway felt strange, too light. Jace and Tara Singh were waiting by the elevators. Jace looked gray, exhausted. "Mr. Keller?" Janet said, joining me, her voice all business. "As per our agreement, in light of your full and sworn cooperation, the company will not be naming you in the criminal referral to the DA. Your testimony will be that of a cooperating witness against Miss Hale. You are free to go." "Thank you," he whispered, looking at the floor. His lawyer nodded and pressed the elevator button. As they waited for the ding, I stepped forward. Jace flinched. A small, reflexive movement. I held out a plain white envelope. He just stared at it, confused. "What is this?" His voice was hoarse. "It's the cashier's check," I said quietly. "The one I showed you at the diner. The grant for your sister's tuition." He shook his head, unable to process it. "But the meeting." "It was never conditional on the outcome of the meeting," I said. "It was conditional on you telling the truth, which you did. She exploited you. Jace, she used your sister's illness as leverage. That ends. Go pay the tuition, get your sister through school, and find a different line of work." He took the envelope from my hand, his fingers brushing mine. They were ice cold. I'm sorry. About your face. What she did." "So am I," I said. The elevator doors opened. He stepped in, his shoulders slumped, and I did not watch him go. My father was the last to leave the boardroom, long after the other directors had scattered. Eager to escape the toxicity of the room, he looked like a man who had walked out of a shipwreck, his suit suddenly 2 sizes too large. He found me by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking down at the harbor. We stood in silence for a long time, watching a massive red container ship being guided into port by 2 small tugboats. "Rowan," he said. His voice was a rasp. I didn't turn. I kept watching the ship. He stopped. He swallowed. A dry clicking sound. "There is no justification. There is no excuse. What she did, what I allowed, the blindness I chose." He finally said the words, "I am sorry." He took a ragged breath. "Not as a CEO, as your father, for not believing you, for letting this, for failing you. I am so very sorry." I let the apology sit in the air. It didn't fix anything. It didn't heal the welt. It didn't erase the memory of the metal bracelet. But it was real. It was the truth. "I know, Dad," I said. He nodded, seeming to understand that was all I could give him. He straightened, visibly trying to find the CEO again, to put the armor back on. "The board," he said, his voice stronger. "We discussed your new role, the Red Team Initiative. It's more than that. I am signing an executive order. You will have special independent oversight of the entire risk control group, all internal audits, all physical and digital security protocols. They will cross your desk first. You will report directly to the board, not to me. You have the authority. No one will ever unplug a camera on you again." I finally turned to look at him. "Thank you." My company email pinged on my phone. It was 11:00 a.m., a company-wide blast from Sandra in PR. I opened it. Subject: Important leadership transition. Team. Today, Halbert and Finch Logistics announced that Celeste Hale has stepped down from her role as Chief Operating Officer, effective immediately. We thank her for her contributions. A search for a new COO will begin shortly. In the interim, her duties will be absorbed by the CEO's office. This transition is the result of an internal review which found violations of our corporate standards of conduct. It was a masterpiece of corporate sanitation, cold, clean, and utterly boring. Violations of our corporate standards: no drama, no crime, no assault, just a quiet, sterile execution. The beast was dead, and no one outside that boardroom would ever even know it had bled. I rode the elevator down to the 14th floor. The corridor was busy now, the workday in full swing. I walked to Utility A3. I swiped my card. The lock beeped and clicked open. I stepped inside. The room was just a room. The server rack hummed. The air still had that faint, sharp smell of ammonia, a ghost of that night. I looked at the steel shelf, at the small, black DVR, the one she had yanked the cord from. The cord was plugged back in. An IT tech must have seen the ticket and fixed it. And on the front of the black box, a single, tiny, beautiful red light was blinking, a steady, faithful pulse. Rec. It was recording. It was stable. It was a small, mundane, insignificant detail, but it felt like the world snapping back into alignment. It was the truth, back online. I stood there for a moment, in the cold, clean air. I pulled out my personal phone. I opened the text thread. Her last message to me: withdraw or you're out. Her number was probably already disconnected, her company phone wiped, but I knew she would be looking at her personal device, obsessively, waiting for the final blow. I typed one single line, one final piece of data. Truth doesn't need bruises to stand. I hit send. The message delivered. I then blocked her number. I deleted the thread. I put my phone in my pocket, stepped out of the utility closet, and let the heavy door thud shut behind me. We stood by the main elevator bank. The workday was in full swing, a backdrop of polite, distant chatter and the chime of phones. But here, by the north wing, there was a bubble of cold, dead air. My father and I stood 15 feet away. Celeste was there, alone. She was clutching her personal handbag, the straps white in her knuckles. The heavy, frosted glass doors to the executive suite had locked behind her. Her company laptop, her files, her life, all confiscated. A uniformed security guard, not one of the C-suite's polished detail, but a man with a bored face and a heavy belt, held a clipboard. "Ma'am, I need your access card," he said, his voice flat. Her hand, the one that had worn the aluminum bracelet, dug into her purse. She pulled out the hard plastic ID, the card that had her name, Celeste Hale, Chief Operating Officer, the card that had unplugged a DVR, the card that had opened a service gate at 3:00 a.m. She handed it to him. He didn't look at it. He dropped it into a gray, opaque plastic bag labeled Termination Kit. He held out the clipboard. "Sign here, please, acknowledging receipt of temporary pass." Her signature was a fast, angry, downward slash. He tore off the bottom sheet of the form and handed her a flimsy white paper card. It looked like a dry cleaning tag. In block letters, it read, "Visitor." It would get her through the lobby turnstiles. One time. The elevator dinged. The polished steel doors slid open. She stepped inside. The car was empty. She did not look at my father. She did not look at me. She faced forward, a statue of rage. The steel doors slid shut, a smooth, silent execution. My own reflection swam into view on that polished surface. I saw myself, a silhouette against the bright, sunlit lobby, and I saw the ghost of her, a darker shape, already vanishing as the car began its rapid final descent. The light from the atrium caught the side of my face, the welt, It was no longer an angry red. It was a dying, ugly map of green and pale yellow. The swelling was gone. The skin was tight. My hand went up, not to my cheek. I touched the cold, floor-to-ceiling glass of the lobby wall beside me. The glass was solid, cool, and smooth. It didn't yield. It just was. Rowan? My father's voice was a rasp. It was wrecked. He was standing beside me, but he hadn't been watching her. He had been watching the floor indicator above the door as it ticked down. 20, 15, 10, 5, He was watching her be erased from the building. The G for ground floor lit up, and then extinguished. She was gone. "Rowan," he said again, his voice thick. "Thank you for what you did. You saved the company." He paused, and his throat worked. "And you saved the family name." He was offering an apology. He was offering a truce. He was offering, in his own broken way, peace. I kept my eyes on the blank steel of the elevator doors. I did not say, "I forgive you." I did not say, "It's okay." Forgiveness was a language I wasn't ready to speak. The wound on my face was still a different color from the rest of my skin. I just nodded. Once, a short, sharp acknowledgement. The truth had been spoken. It was bigger than both of us. It was enough to fill the void. It would have to be, for now. I left him there and went to my new office, the one with the new plaque. Risk Oversight and Red Team. It was quiet. The blinds were drawn, the room lit only by the blue glow of the monitors. I sat at my new console. I pulled up the one program I cared about, the Finch Estate security logs. I navigated to the irrigation controls. The schedule was there, in plain clean, block text. 500 a.m., run cycle zone 15, standard. That was it. The 2:57 a.m. manual override, the soak cycle, the entire digital architecture of her deception. It was gone from the schedule. Wiped. It existed now in only 3 places: the district attorney's new file, the board's sealed archive, and the small black object in my hand. 3:17 a.m. was just a time again, a harmless set of numbers on a clock. The fever had broken. I stood and walked to the heavy steel safe built into the wall. I entered the new combination, a 32-character string. The door clicked open with a heavy, satisfying thud. I took the small, black, encrypted USB drive, Project 317. I placed it on the bare, gray metal shelf. It looked so small, so quiet. I shut the heavy door, turned the handle, and felt the tumblers engage. Locked. I turned off the monitors. The room plunged into a comfortable darkness, lit only by the steady green heartbeat of the servers. I walked out, my heels clicking on the tile, through the secured door, past the turnstiles, and back into the main lobby. The lobby was a canyon of glass and white granite. The sun was high, a brilliant midday blast of light. It poured through the 3-story atrium, cutting sharp, bright white rectangles onto the polished floor. The light was absolute. It was so clean, so sterile. It felt like it was burning the air. It burned away every shadow. I stopped in the middle of that warmth, in the center of the granite floor. The memory of the utility closet, the sharp, eye-watering smell of ammonia, the bleach on her nails. It was all being washed away. I closed my eyes. Just for a second, I lifted my face to the warmth, and I breathed. Then I opened them and walked toward the light. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to connect with you all. Please, drop a comment below and let me know where you're listening from and share your thoughts on the story. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. And finally, if you want to help this story reach more people, please support us by hitting that hype button. Thank you again.